God, because, I mean, otherwise there would be so many people believing in him.
Well, I don't read my Bible, because I don't think there's a lot of help in it, really. And I don't go to church unless I feel sad, in which case I do.
God's with us everywhere. When I look at the sky, look at that sky going on to infinity. Something far beyond me or any human being. Yes.
A lot of gas, I think, is up there at the moment.
Apart from the gas, I think there
It says in the Bible that he knows all the stars by name. That speaks to me of God's great power and his great glory. And when I look at the small, intricate things of nature, it speaks to me of how God has taken care of even the smallest manifestations of creation.
Good evening. Well, are we small manifestations of God's creation, as the man on the film said, or purely products of chance, who for their own comfort have invented the idea of God? To put it another way, did God create man or man create God? It's a choice everybody's got to make. This book, The Probability of God, that's just been published, makes the incredibly important assertion that modern science is beginning to reveal the existence of a creator God. Its author, Hugh Montefiore, the Bishop of Birmingham, is with us here tonight, and next to him we have Paul Davis, who's the Professor of Theoretical Physics at the University of Newcastle, and then on my left I'm joined by Professor Sir Freddie Eyre, philosopher and logician and well known to all of us, and on my far left Professor Sir Herman Bondi, Master of Churchill College, Cambridge, and renowned scientist and President of the British Humanist Association. We have with us as well a very distinguished audience, and we shall doubtless be hearing from them later on in the programme. But is a discussion on the nature and existence of God relevant today? We've already heard some of your comments, which we recorded when we took a stroll outside St. Paul's Cathedral. To our surprise, we found most people rather interested in the idea of God.
What's your God like?
Someone I can talk to when I'm feeling on my own, I suppose.
The way he's normally portrayed is as an individual, something in man's own image, and I don't believe that at all.
I think he's got a lot of value for a lot of people, especially for lonely people and old people, probably.
And for you too?
He's my sort of reserve when I'm on my own.
He's big, he's got a beard and long hair. Black long hair, yeah, black beard. I don't think he's like a person, but he's just a voice. I think he's great, and he just helps you. And then in the night, sometimes in the dark, you feel so scared. But then when you think of God, you don't feel scared anymore.
He's tall with a beard, and he's just a great man.
So he looks a bit like you in some ways.
I do believe there is something that well, not exactly makes decisions for us, but knows more than we do.
Do you believe in a God?
No, only actually from the point of view that I do believe that there is a point beyond which people are unable to comprehend, and when that point is arrived at, then they encapsulate the whole thing in the concept of a God.
When I look around at the suffering in this world, then I don't believe there's a God. If there was a God, it wouldn't cause the suffering that there is in this world. Then again, I think of Ethiopia with the Live Aid concert, and maybe there is. To get all people together to get money together for children, I think, yeah, there is. Got to be.
Well, was our universe created by a God or not? Hugh Montefiore's book says yes, and takes a fresh look at natural theology, which, as far as I understand it, is the argument that says that you can perceive the existence of God directly from the evidence of nature, and that, of course, includes scientific evidence. Hugh Montefiore, couldn't it be argued that you are, in fact, trespassing on other people's patch?
Well, yes, you could argue anything, but I don't really see why we shouldn't reflect on what the scientists have said. I think people mix up science with the philosophy of science, that is, its meaning and interpretation. I really think anyone can have a go at that. I certainly have, and will continue to do so. I don't want to prove from the natural sciences that God exists. That I don't think can be done. But I do think we can now see that there's a high probability that this world is not a random occurrence. And that seems to me to say a very great deal.
Right. Herman Bondi, what do you actually feel about that? Because do you feel in any sense it's a misuse of science?
No, I wouldn't call it a misuse, and I was very much impressed by the book for its erudition and for its honesty. But I do think that the argument of this very good book leaves me stone cold. Not because I'm short of awe, not because I'm short of wonder. I feel our universe is wonderful and something to be awestruck by. What worries me is that this book will be taken by many people to prove Christianity, or at least to make it probable, or to prove or to make probable some other religion in which there is a revelation which makes people say, I know God's will. And that, to me, is a great source of evil.
No, well, I must come back here and say that all that you can do from natural theology is show the hunger in men and women's hearts for God's personal self-disclosure, which I believe that he has given us. And although terrible things have been done in the name of religion, I will agree with you. I also think that the most wonderful things have been done, and I'm always interested that people like you only mention the terrible things.
Not only.
Right. Earlier on, Paul Davis, I described you as Hugh Montefiore's scientific champion, and presumably you've got a considerable amount of sympathy with Hugh. Would you like to explain that a bit further?
Yes, perhaps I could summarize my own position before I begin.
Absolutely.
As being perhaps best described as an awestruck agnostic, which is to say that through my scientific investigations, I have become more and more impressed with the incredibly, stupendously intricate nature of the cosmos as we come to understand the universe in greater and greater detail. So it seems more and more remarkable that things have been arranged such that, in its broadest sense, the universe is self-aware. That is, that it permits the existence of intelligent observers such as ourselves. And it seems to me that this is not something which is inevitable, that the world could have been arranged differently, and that the fact that things have been arranged so that we can exist and observe the world, and that, moreover, our existence seems to depend very delicately upon the organization of the cosmos and the nature of the laws of physics. The fact that that is so seems to me a puzzle, and a puzzle that deserves an explanation. In other words, I would like to know why the world is the way it is. I can't accept it as a brute fact. I would like some sort of explanation.
Right. Freddie Eyre, I imagine that as far as you're concerned, we've been talking a whole lot of rubbish so far. I'd like to hear your view on the subject.
I don't think we've been talking rubbish. I think there's been a lot of bad logic. But that's not quite the same thing. What the last argument comes to is saying the world is arranged as it is, therefore somebody arranged it. Now, this is a very poor argument because it could apply to however the world was arranged. I mean, all that you have said, and all that I'm afraid the Bishop has said in a book which I also admired very much. I thought it was a very honest book and a very erudite book, I'm ready to say so. Nevertheless, all he was saying was, there are these causes, there are these effects, and had the causes been different, the effects would have been different. Nobody's going to dispute this. What is totally lacking is any justification for the assumption that the world as it is was designed, and had the world been different, it would not have been designed. And in fact, saying it's all designed by God is not an explanation of anything at all. You're just saying, here I give up, but because, and in fact, President Davis has admitted this, so science goes no further, therefore we're going to bring old Noble Daddy to make us all feel cheerful. That won't do.
The reason why I'm interested in the natural sciences here is that so often you hear people saying the natural sciences have disproved God, or there's no reasonable basis for believing in God. I'm afraid Freddie Eyre's backing a loser here. I mean, it could just be a brute fact that human beings have evolved with their amazing capacities for relationship and for their experience of God is phony. It could just be true. It could be true that our intimations of morality have no ultimate sanction, that our experience of what is true and good and beautiful isn't a window into reality. But the simplest explanation of the lot, the simplest explanation in logic, is that there is a creator.
Right. there are many other ways of looking for God other than science, and some might actually say better ways. And most of the world's religions believe that God takes steps to reveal himself and reveal the world to us. And I'd like very much to hear from Mahur Krishnamurti, who is a Hindu who is actually sitting in the audience here tonight.
The Hinduism says very clearly, as far as the creation is concerned, it's not just God created the world and just left to itself. God himself became the beings, and the Hinduism strongly believes in God who creates, protects, and ultimately he dissolves. This is the belief of God, and the Hindus worship him with form and without form. The nature is the other face of God, and the Hindu strongly tries to describe the indescribable by worshipping him by various images.
Can I go to Ahmad Deidat to talk about the role of revelation?
You see, the Muslim believes that God Almighty, he reveals his messages in word form. And in that word form, this book, the Holy Quran, was revealed through the Holy Prophet Muhammad during the 23 years of his prophetic life. And it deals with these problems more directly instead of guessing. And God Almighty, he reasons with his creation by asking him questions. He said, now, how can you not believe in God? How can you not believe in him, seeing that you were non-existent and he brought you into being? And he will cause you to die, and he will bring you back to life again, and to him will be your return. So how can you not? In other words, the way you have been computerized, the way the Creator made you, you would naturally deflect towards God as the magnetic needle does towards north.
Can I just ask you whether your God is the same God as Hugh Montefiore's, the bishop's?
It is the same God, except that in our concepts we differ. You see, the Archbishop, ultimately he will come to making Jesus Christ as God, a God incarnate. Now, the Muslim says, no, God is God and man is man.
Right, can I move on now? Philip Eden, as a Buddhist, what in fact do you feel about this? Because your concept of God is quite different.
Yes, well, as far as Buddhism is concerned, there is rather a different approach. We feel that there is a fundamental reality or truth or ground of being, which of course is in everything and behind everything. I think that many of the followers of theistic religions tend to believe that God is out there somewhere in the cosmos, and that it's necessary for human beings to try and somehow establish a relationship with him. As far as the Buddhist is concerned, that reality is everywhere and in everything, so that the task of the individual is to understand that reality in himself, and that is the methods that are developed in Buddhism to help somebody to come to that realization. We feel that the problem with a creator is that inevitably one must then ask the question, who created the creator? And that, of course, is endless. You can go on and on doing that. So somewhere you have to start with the first cause, and surely the first cause is the universe itself. Man is one way in which the universe experiences itself.
But your God is obviously very different then from Hugh Montefiore's God.
There's a point that Herman Bondi raised about, you know, the fact that many terrible things have been done in the name of religion, and I think it's perhaps important to point out that probably the reason for this is that people for a long time, I think particularly in the West, have had this concept, you know, I'm here and the truth is over there somewhere, and there is a narrow path that leads to that truth. If you have that concept, which I sort of think of as a fan-like concept, then inevitably, if you believe that you have found the right path, all the other paths are wrong, and your task is to force everyone onto that narrow path. Surely it would be so much better if we had this concept of the truth being, as it were, at the center of a circle. We are somewhere on that circumference, and there are many different paths that lead into that truth. And the thing for us to realize, I think, is that the particular path that we choose is very much a personal thing. And it depends on many different factors. It probably depends on the person that we have met that may have explained that path to us, and various experiences we've had. If only we realize, all right, this path for me is the right one at this particular time, but that does not